Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving.
And as I was listening to the Prelude, I happened to notice the beautiful flowers that Deborah brought in for the service this morning on our altar of the orange lantern, Japanese, Chinese, and also another little bouquet on the altar this morning. So thank you, Deb. I remember hearing about body-mind science and spiritual practices years ago in the late 1990s, but it never really registered with me or clicked until I attended a yoga class with Linda Rowe in the year 2000. We had just met a few months earlier. She talked about the body-mind as one thing, and as we applied movement and breath to the practice, I got it. It felt like one combination of things going on all at the same time. This was Linda's first studio out of 7, and it was located in the Fishman Mall downtown building owned at the time by Joyce Transu, who was Linda's landlord. I was hoping she might be here this morning. The Courtyard Cafe was in the back section of the building. Linda was in the front space on Main Street. I think this was my favorite of Linda's multiple yoga studios, especially during the late afternoon class when Joyce was cooking in the kitchen, garlic and spices in the air. So for our moment of centering silence, let us find our breath and find our center, grounding ourselves in the combination of body, mind, and soul. It's our intentional awareness, conscious awareness, that brings it all together. I will sound the chime once for awareness of body, a second time for awareness of the body. Did I say body or? Okay, right. Second one would be awareness of mind. And the third time, awareness of spirit souls. Here we go. I'm going to light our chalice this morning, and I'm looking at you, Laura, in the back corner. So nice to see you this morning. Your sweater actually matches the floral arrangement on the altar this morning, so it seemed like you were the perfect person to light, actually. And by the time you get here, I'll have the candle lit. Have you done this before?
I've done it maybe once before.
Okay, we will. Take the matchstick. I'm going to transfer the flame from the ritual match candle to the chalice. And then extinguish the matchstick without blowing out the chalice. That's happened before. And then taking the snuff and place it in the little matchstick holder on the front of the light the chalice today for the new morning, for the new light, and for new thoughts in how to live this day, for the new things we might learn today. We light this small flame on the altar and in our hearts this morning. So in the support page this week, you may have noticed I've been digging in the archives, the bench over here in the parlor, and I came across this envelope, which was actually in my desk downstairs. It was not in the archive bench. I'll be returning it this afternoon. And what I found in it was this interesting article from 1902 in the Bangor Daily newspaper of Houlton's new church, which was currently under construction here on the corner of Kellerman and Military. So this is the original article. If you'd like to read it in its entirety, there's only a small little portion that was in the support page. And there's an interesting comment where the building is in a cross style, with the transit being the organ house and the parlor off to the side forming a cross, which was more accented before we added the coffee room in 1927, interrupted the original architectural design. But one comment was, the corresponding transit contains a commodious parlor with open fireplace. This parlor, on occasion, can be thrown into the auditorium as you open the sliding doors. So I came across the original dedication event order of services for the day, which happened a year later, 1903, November 24th, 1903. And in this, there's a combination of a special dedicatory service at 10:30 a.m. There's a Unitarian conference with addresses at 2:30 p.m. in the afternoon. A service of baptism and receiving of new members, 4 o'clock that afternoon. And then an installation service of a Reverend Letherick R. Daniels as the new minister of UU Houlton at 7:30 that evening.
Wow.
It was a full day, and it's all on this one sheet of all of those orders of service. And these would be the 2 ministers. Maple Lane was here when the fire was early in May of 1902, and he transitioned out as Mrs. Letherick Daniels, who was installed that huge event, November 24, 1903, as the newest minister, and the last of our lineage of the 19th century, early 20th century ministers, the Houlton UU. That is also going to be down here on the table that you can look at after the service. Then I came across this envelope that said, dated March 2002, 3 damaged organ pipes found in the organ, cleaning and rebuilding, led by Jay Witcher, assisted by Ann Rhinelander, L.T. Rhinelander, and Willie Mosenfelder. And in this envelope, you will find 3 of the old pipes, some of the smallest pipes from the organ that they found damaged. And I'm going to pass these around, and you can look at the wear and tear from the original organ 1903 when it would have been installed. And we did this major, the first work on the organ in 2002. We did a concert later on that year.
They actually make noise when...
Those no longer make noise, but in 1903, they would have been some of the higher pipes. I'm not sure if Jay replaced, I think he made new pipes to take the place of those that were inserted in the organ house. And one more piece, this is for our opening words this morning. It's the custom of a society relating to membership, and it talks about covenant. And this is dated, it was published here December 19, 1901, just before the fire, stating, we, members of the Unitarian Society of Houlton, Maine, desiring to mark the new century by a closer union and a more definite understanding of the purposes of our congregation, hereby adopt the following covenant. Adopted first by the First Congregational Church of Salem, Massachusetts in 1620, we covenant with the Lord and with one another, and do bind ourselves in the presence of the divine to walk together in all his ways according as he is pleased to reveal himself unto us in his blessed word of truth. And we adopt together with this the modern code of principles. And at that point they called it the 5 points of Unitarianism, which later evolved into our 7 principles, and now our UU shared values as of a convention last year. And going on at the end, and we affirm that neither of these 2 expressions to be regarded amongst us as a creed or statement of beliefs, but is rather to serve the ancient covenant as an expression of a practical unity of purpose existing among us, and the modern code as a cluster of noble ideas, which we set before ourselves, typically to represent as a model the things toward which, as a church, we are reaching out.
Thank you.
And on the back, a little asterisk saying, nothing in this preamble or bylaws shall ever be constructed by the society or by its minister as imposing a test of belief or candidates for membership of this society. Membership is based on this covenant of values and shared behaviors. So from the archive, I hadn't seen that in years, and it seemed applicable to our faith. Enough talk. Let us sing. Number 121, We'll Build a Land. And we will sing all verses and rise as you are able on this morning. We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free. Where the oil of gladness is also mourning. Oh, we'll build a promise going to sing again in the 308, The Blessings of the Earth and Sky. And you may remain seated on this one, or you can stand if you Number 308. For offertory this morning, we have a piece named Funnies by Bolbec, a French instrumentalist duo that creates library music and creative sound vibes. This is a fun little piece for a day like today. Funnies. Matt, if you will assist with the offertory this morning. Bishka is on piano, vocal building fund, organ, and the building. Let us give the party planners on this day. readings lately, we've been featuring covenants in the back of our book, and today it's number 473. And this is by Reverend James Bolbec, who was a Unitarian minister in Evanston, Illinois, and he wrote this in 1894 while he was the settled minister there. And this is probably, it's short, so it's probably one of the most common covenants that would be repeated at UU worship services during the portion, at some part during the service. So today, let us say this in unison, number 473, a covenant. Love
is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
You never know when you're going to learn something new. Although this is my 25th year as minister at the UU Houlton Church, and I'm planning to retire in less than 2 months, I am still learning new things. Like the mind-body concept in yoga class with Linda years ago. Just this week, I learned something I had never known before, even though I had been doing this all my life. I learned how to properly split an English muffin, preserving all the nooks and crannies that make an English muffin so interesting and so yummy. If it can hold some more of that melted butter and jam in just one of those craggy spaces, it's all worth it. A TikTok video by Stephanie Reynolds went viral a couple of weeks ago with over 2 million views, showing how to split an English muffin without using a fork or a knife, which is actually the way I have always done it, usually the knife technique. So I'm going to share with you and show you this easy-to-learn technique this morning that has changed my whole approach to making my breakfast. So this morning, I brought in a package of Thomas English muffins. Turns out, from our congregation, someone else didn't bring in their favorite muffin, which was Bay's, which we Googled it before the service. It turns out from 1933, from Chicago. He opened his bakery and started doing muffins. But Thomas predates, he's known as the original the inventor of the American version of the English muffin. They do not eat these in England. So, how you do this is around the edge, you take your fingers and you just squeeze lightly all the way around, slowly around the edge of the English muffin, like so. And I've added my own technique of, I didn't watch the video at first, so I just looked at the video, written instructions, and I thought they were rolling it in their hand like this, which I think also adds to the technique. So it's squeezing around the edge, and then should open easily with your fingers to show the true crags and nooks and crannies of the English muffin.
That's magical.
Toaster. I showed this to Linda, and again, she had never known this little trick. One commenter said, "My jaw is on the floor. I did not know," in capital letters. And another exclaimed, "Did not know. I even went to culinary school and they never told us." I also noticed the price now on a package of Thomas English muffins is $4.90. So during coffee hour today, you'll notice there's a toaster set up on the back table. You can try this technique out for yourself. I got a package of Thomas muffins, kitchen-safe plastic gloves in case you want to be safe. that way, and share your muffin with someone else. The toaster, some Shivers English jam, black caramel. I would have brought in the Shivers orange marmalade as well, because some folks have already mentioned that's their favorite Shivers jam. What I've always appreciated about my experience here at UU Houlton is the wide range of life exposure to ideas, viewpoints, interests, skill sets, creativity, and passion from members of this diverse and unpredictable group. It came as no surprise that we have information and opinion on English muffins and jam. You never know what might come up during the course of a Sunday morning service, or a conversation during coffee hour, or when attending one of the group's sponsored events. I've often joked that I feel smarter just having spent time with this amazing group, and besides, the food is always good. For example, the Keith Helmuth service last year with the Kinney brothers assisting on the life and times of Tappan Adney and the release of his new biography. I had never heard of him until one of the services here in Houlton. For our field trip a couple of summers ago to the Beaverbrook Art Gallery in Fredericton, featuring Salvador Dali's 4-story masterpiece, Santiago El Grande. I also remember a service years ago in a talk by our very own Michael Fasulo titled Zen in the Art of Golf, complete with golf clubs, his swing tips, and fairway philosophy. And surprisingly enough, nothing was damaged in the parlor during the course of the service. And some of the best examples being the open pulpit sharing services. Even when there is no topic theme selected, one seems to develop on its own better than even if we had tried. You never know what that new something might be. When I first came to the church, covenant was one of those new things that I didn't know much about. I had studied the theological term in seminary from the perspective of other Christian traditions, but I didn't really know what the Unitarian Universalist take was on it. What I discovered was UU Covenant, a bold concept of basing spiritual community and its interaction on shared values, shared agreements, and the keeping of and the repairing of those promises as the community works and envisions a life together in a hectic and sometimes very bewildering world. There's a definition that appears in today's bulletin of covenant that I came up with. Of covenant is a core concept that once defined extends to find connection in wide and various applications, from how we do a Sunday morning service to how a board meeting runs, or how you organize and do a rummage sale, or like next week our craft sale. All gets connected to this concept of covenant. Covenant agreements are relational based and are a starting point to construct whatever follows behind it. Covenant is a connector that coordinates all these many parts. All things taken together, it becomes a practice that's practical, a practice that is spiritual, a practice that is unique, UU spiritual practice of covenant. And this is something that Catherine mentioned a couple of weeks ago, talking about truth-telling and finding joy and accuracy and practicing it daily as this is one of the best approaches to what covenant looks like as we try to sort through our lives together here as an organization, as a community, and in the larger world. So what I'd like to do for time remaining is, one, share a few things about covenant briefly, which we kind of just started, and then two, share my story of how I became involved here at UU Houlton. want to pass out this little worksheet, and I'm going to put you to work again, Matt. And I think I have enough copies of this. It's titled Practicing Covenant, something that came out here years ago when we were doing this theme earlier. And in the bulletin, you'll see 4 categories that are related to covenant aspects of this. And there's probably more than these, and we've looked at these before. I just wanted to include them again for your own reference. The categories of covenant have aspects of their agreements. It includes belongingness or membership in this society or church. 3, sanctuary, safety, safe place, and mission, finding and discovering and articulating who are we and what are we about, especially in times such as this where there is real work to be done in the community, and how do we fit in here at Houlton in that mission order. And just to highlight just a few of the materials that we've been using and will continue to use during the year are 2 pamphlets, one on our shared Unitarian Universalist values that we used last year on our theme, a brochure on covenant, pluralism, and transformation. These are all on the information table in the coffee room that we've been using last year and continue to use this year. And these note cards that have the shared values written on there that we've been doing services on, connecting last year's theme to this year. And the 5 agreements on the wall is something that here at UU Houlton, we've included this as part of the covenant materials for the package. We found these to be some of the most practical guidelines of what our principles and our shared values look like as they play out in real life. I remember one of our members years ago used to have these on his desk. He was a counselor, and he would use one or all or several of those 5 agreements in like counseling situations that were applicable, and found that there's a way to apply our values here in the real world. So, on this worksheet, we're not going to spend any time on this. I just wanted to put out some of the suggested guidelines or aspects of covenant as we were looking at it that year, where practicing covenant is a relational-based model that provides context for group orientation and accountability. And if you compare these 10 points on the list, they, in a lot of cases, pair up with one of those 4 categories on covenant that you'll find in today's bulletin, which is kind of interesting. The only one I would like to really highlight, to me, that keeps jumping out is number 5. What we're trying to do here at UU Houlton, and in my experience here, is developing or creating a culture of, if you want to call it higher group awareness, or raising the awareness of how do we relate to each other and to the larger world, that it really is a think tank and an experimental laboratory of the services and the work we do here, trying to raise that up a notch of these shared agreements and shared language and shared experience, and to model that. And when we fall short of that, it's part of that reworking of the culture, but being able to talk about it and have a language to work with that process. Here's my story. I'll try to keep this short. Could be, it's 25 years to cover. These are the early years. In the late 1980s, I owned and operated a log cabin restaurant for 2 years called Hutchinson, US Route 1 in Monticello. At that time, Hutchins and the Bonanza Steakhouse in Presque Isle were the only 2 restaurants north of Bangor that featured a charbroil grill, and we were the area's only 4-season ice cream parlor at the time. You would know the location today as the Blue Moose. Two of my regular customers were Dora and Lad Sharp, a retired couple who made it a point to eat lunch out every day of a week at a local restaurant. Hutchins was on their regular rotation. They were retired from New Jersey, where she was a former high school guidance counselor, administrator, and he, a retired civil engineer and World War II veteran. They were also members of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Houlton. Shortly after I sold the business, they invited me to a Sunday morning service at the Houlton UU Church. I'd only been inside of a building one time before, that being a Houlton Community Chorus concert hosted at the Unitarian Church, and I was a member of a chorus around 1986, I believe. It was a 50-member chorus. We were in the sanctuary, risers were on the floor, and then two more risers behind the pulpit going almost to the ceiling. A small orchestra was off to the side, and I believe several of you were members of that choir and may have sung in that concert. Karen, do you remember? Okay. I don't remember too much about the service that I attended. It was in 1990, it was in the sanctuary. Reverend Dennis Daniels was the minister, who happened to be the last full-time minister settled at the Houlton Church, and would have been a colleague of yours, Dale, when you were minister of the congregation. Several people were curious if I was Dora and Lad's son. No one really recognized me when I came in. 2 years later, I remember seeing an article in the Pioneer Times about a coffee house that had just started in the parlor of a Houlton UU church. It was open to the public for musicians, poets, and writers, and there was a photo taken against the glass doors with Don Rollins holding a guitar, who was the minister at the time and MC of a coffee house. So I'm suspecting those doors were closed, and that was the stage facing this direction for the coffee house, and there would be like card tables set up for a very casual acoustic version of the Houlton coffee house. I remember being interested at the time, but since I didn't know anyone, I never went. Shortly after that, I was working out at the Shiretown Inn and Motel's health club, and I noticed a guy riding one of the exercise bikes reading a psychology book. That in itself was unusual. So we started a conversation, and the guy turned out to be John Pasquarelli, who was a student at the time working on his counseling degree, and was also a local musician and sound man at the UU Coffee House. And that, as they say, was the day it all started. John introduced me to a person I just had to meet, as he put it. And then they introduced me to several other people I just had to meet. And that's how it all took off. Now, it's what I call instant network. You meet one person, they connect you to their network, and then that network keeps going. It's exponential. And it so happened that many of those networked people were connected to the Houlton Unitarian Society, as it was called in those days. At that time, the Unitarian Society sponsored a foreign film night, the occasional book discussion group, the monthly Teeth Coffee House, a monthly contra dance downstairs in the basement, and was the host location for a local men's group, which I was a member of, and most of the other men in the group happened to be as well. These activities were the core of my social life in Houlton at the time. I did not attend the Sunday service. I was still skittish about attending any religious organization's offerings, afraid I might get involved, as they would say. But the personal draw, those new friends that I had met, and our shared interest in art, music, food, and religious philosophy were hard to ignore or overlook. I was approached by the Unitarian Society to speak at a couple of services here and there, and I did, but still, that was the only time I would ever attend on a Sunday morning, though I'd be in the building in these other sponsored events all the time. I remember the first talk that I delivered here was on winter ski trips into Baxter State Park, titled Katahdin in Winter. And another was titled Confessions of an Unemployed Seminarian. Looking at it now, an indicator of my struggles with professional ministry, and suddenly the new possibility of working with a religious organization that did things a bit differently, that gave me intellectual and spiritual space to truly explore what that might be. By this time, 1999, Martha Newman was serving as half-time minister at church, and members of the group supplied the balance of the services as lay leaders, or using Martha's term, ministers among many, is when this hybrid model started in Houlton back in the early 1990s. As she was looking to transition into her second retirement as a UU minister, the church board approached me with the possibility of coming on as the assistant minister, and we would split the church year. I would cover the winter months, difficult for Martha to travel. Martha would take fall and spring. And in those days, we closed for the summer, which was known as the Unitarian recess. This would be a 2-year process with Martha Newman and Scott Alexander, former minister of Houlton here in the 1970s, and was minister at Bethesda, Maryland at the time. They were my mentors, preparing me to become the half-time settled minister of a Houlton church, scheduled for the fall of 2001. And that is what happened. And now that is 25 years ago, and here we are. What attracted me initially were the people. It's always about the people. Part of my how things work theory is that interesting people tend to draw more people of interest. And in my experience, that has always been how this place has worked. You never know who the next person might be who walks through the door, the timing, the background, how they got here, why are you here, why Houlton? And all of that comes together over conversation and comparing life notes of what is going on and what is someone looking for. Each of us had our story. B shared part of her story with that text message this morning. We all have our journey of what brought us here and why we stayed, or why someone might leave or come back. It's all part of a uniquely personal journey that we are exploring and constantly pushing the edges of into something new. I think of all the musicians that we have met here in the last 32 years of Coffee House or the concert series in the auditorium. Gunther Brown this summer was an example of that experience. Martha Newman used to say, you can tell the general state of the congregation by what goes on during coffee hour. And I'm not sure if I've shared this story or not, but I'm going to share it again. And I'm aware of it's 10 past 11. Coffee hour used to take place right here in this room, in this back corner. The pulpit was on this side of the room, and there was an old, historic, antique desk that the coffee percolator sat on top of. And someone would bring in some store-bought cookies, typically. And coffee hour might last 15 minutes tops, and then people would be out the door and on with the rest of their Sunday day. And when the culture started to change, we upgraded the coffee machine, we moved into the other space. Coffee hours almost turned into Sunday brunch at times as people got very creative with the food that came in. And conversations became extended. New people were coming in, getting to know each other. And sometimes coffee hour would last until 2 o'clock in the afternoon before someone would say, oh, I need to be getting along. And I would notice that people weren't necessarily coming on a Sunday morning for the Sunday service per se, as much as they were coming back to see someone or to connect with someone they had met and wanted to see them or to talk during coffee hour. Part of the cafe concept was how do we build a space to extend these conversations in a comfortable, interesting space with really good coffee. And to meet more often than just on Sunday, but to create other time slots, to use the building more, and to use different spaces in the building more. That's what I love about this job, when I reflect upon it in these last few days and upcoming days. It's the people, it's the history of this place, the building, the organization, and what it stands for. It's been my life for the past 25 years. I have great gratitude and appreciation for having been a part of it. It bounces both ways. It's the always learning and experiencing new things, and that never ends. New ways to split an English muffin. New ways to engage in the world of never-ending challenge. New people to do it with, and the old friends that have been here for the long haul all along. A great connection and appreciation for it all. I'm aware of time, and I'm going to stop right here. Do you want to sing, Dale, as we leave this friendly place? It's on the bulletin before I extinguish the
Sure,
chalice.
let's sing.
Let's do one verse, 414.
There's just one verse.
And please stand. 414. As we extinguish the chalice, we leave this gathered community. Do not leave our connection, our concerns with our care with each other. Our connection continue. So until we are together again, my friends, be strong, be true, try new things this week, be true to oneself, to those around you, and be loved. Amen. Amen.
We want to thank everybody for tuning in today. If you'd like to show your support, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel if you're not already subscribed, and help us out by sharing this message by clicking the share button. If you'd like to make a monetary donation to U Church Houlton, there is a link to our online donations in the video description down below. And again, thank you so much, and have a blessed day.